Yo, what is going on, you guys? Thank you so much for tuning into this video. My name is Ryan, aka Arpit, and today we are going to be talking about some of the reasons why I have loved the heck out of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. This game has absolutely been one of my favorites that I've played this year, if not my favorite game that I've played this entire year. Now, this game is obviously not perfect, and there are a lot of things that definitely could use some improvement. Maybe could still use some improvement later on from the developers, but overall, I really feel like this is an experience that, if you own a Nintendo Switch, this is a game that you absolutely have to play. So let's get into the 7 reasons why I have absolutely loved Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. And I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as possible, so if you are worried about that, have no worries, because I'm going to make sure to not spoil anything for you. Now, the first thing that I loved about this game is this game definitely feels like an extension of Breath of the Wild instead of its own thing, which is really awesome, because if you look at the last Hyrule Warriors game, it definitely was a game where they just compiled all the different characters of the Zelda franchise and sort of shoved them into a game and said, here's all your favorite characters, go for it. Where this game, they definitely did a better job of pulling these characters together in a story, and it definitely felt like you were actually playing a prequel for Breath of the Wild. Now, obviously, the gameplay is entirely different, but they did an awesome job with the art style, and also bringing in a lot of the sort of points of interest from Breath of the Wild into this game that really makes it feel like that extension rather than its own thing. And obviously things like the Sheikah Slate, even just down to their wardrobe itself, it definitely does an excellent job of tying these games together. Now, the second thing that I have loved about Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is how well I think they integrated the different characters into the story. Now, it's not perfect, but it's definitely a step up from the previous Hyrule Warriors game. Now, obviously, I'm not going to get into all of the characters of the game, because that would obviously spoil a lot of it, in case you guys are still worried about that. But I definitely feel like they did an excellent job of integrating the different characters and making sure that they actually did tie into the character. And you've got the different relationships between characters that you kind of see through some of the dialogue. So, even just things with like Link and Mipha, we knew there was a relationship there. And so through dialogue and those things, even just in side missions, they do a good job of sort of linking those characters and establishing that relationship a little bit better. So that's something that I really like that I feel like they did a good job with. Now, the third reason why I love this game is that every character definitely feels viable. Now, for me, I definitely loved, some characters more than others, but I can definitely see where every character, depending on just how you want to play or how you like each character's playstyle, there's definitely something to be loved for each of these characters. Now, some, I will say, I didn't really use all that much just because I love the other characters a lot more. But I really feel like they did a very good job of balancing each of these characters and giving them, their different strengths that definitely make them set apart from the others as well. And I just love, if there's a specific character that you love, you can find a way to make that character work. And, just getting into some of the different side missions, I would say for the most part, you can choose which character you want to take into those side missions. And so, if there's a character that you really like, you can definitely use that character. And so that's something I really like. They don't necessarily limit your characters so much to the point where you can basically use your favorite character that you want to use. So going right along with that same idea, with number 4, is that every character is definitely unique. So, with like Rivali, he has his bows and he can actually fly in midair. And so he has different like midair attacks and different attacks when he's on the ground. With Link, he's definitely the most diverse because he has 3 different types of weapons that he can yield, and each weapon plays differently and even has different, like finishing moves and things like that. So every character, I love that every time I unlocked a different character, it honestly felt like I was almost starting the game new and fresh, because I wanted to see how that character played, and each one of them have different abilities and ways that they use the different like runes for the Sheikah Slate and things like that, that they definitely all feel different, even though sometimes you could argue they are doing the same thing, if that makes sense. So I just love that every character felt super unique and different, that when I unlocked a new character, it really just felt like I was diving into a new experience. Now, getting into some of the combat of the game, coming in at number 5, I absolutely love how they balance the hordes of enemies with the different boss battles. Now, there's different, I guess, degrees of difficulty with bosses. So you run into these pretty difficult bosses, especially later in the game. And then you have sort of these, like, I guess, mini bosses that have their different weak point gauges that you can knock down and things like that. But I absolutely love how they balanced, these different battles with the hordes of enemies and then these different boss battles. It's just as satisfying taking down, 100 bokoblins and then, taking on this really fierce, like Lionel, for example. So things like that. It just feels like it's very well balanced, and they do a good job of mixing it up so that you don't just fight a bunch of bosses or you don't just hack down a lot of different enemies. So I feel like they do a really good job of making sure that all of those areas of combat are very, very balanced. Now, the sixth reason why I have loved this game so much is that even though I used some of my characters, probably a good majority of the game, because of the ability to unlock additional combos for each character, it did a good job of keeping the game fresh, even with these characters that I've played with for, quite a while into the game. So at the beginning of the game, at least with the characters that you start out with, like Link, Zelda, and Impa and those characters, you start out with pretty basic combos. Like, it's basically up to 4 different attacks that you can do. But as you progress through the game, you can unlock these additional combos for those characters that, turn into these, really powerful combos that can deal a ton of damage. So really, this is just a feature that makes it so each character continues to feel like there's something that you need to do to better master that specific character. And I just really love that, because it gives you an opportunity to not only sometimes work to unlock those additional attacks. So there's different missions you can do to be able to unlock those attacks. But then it really just does a good job of making sure that those characters definitely continue to feel different and that you still want to be able to master those characters' attacks. And last but not least, this sort of covers, I guess, a lot of the game, but there is just so much to do. So there is, once you complete the main storyline of the game, there's still characters to unlock. There's still plenty of side missions you probably haven't completed. At least that's what happened for me. I think there were still a good, 40 missions probably that I hadn't completed even after I completed the main story. Just recently, like right before I recorded this, I had just finished unlocking the last character, which opens up, even additional missions from there. So there is just so much to do. And I honestly never, or very rarely, got bored of these different missions. They do give you some character specific missions. And so some of the characters that I didn't necessarily love playing with, I didn't love those missions necessarily. Well, 1, because they were usually under-leveled, and then 2, I just didn't love how they played, and so you have to make it through an entire mission with them. But even then, it wasn't the worst, because it honestly is sort of a break from sort of your main characters that you end up using throughout the game. So, even in those times, it really wasn't the worst, and I wasn't having a terrible time. I have probably put in, 40 hours up to this point into the game, and I have enjoyed every single second. Just because there's so much to do. There's still so much for me to do in the game. And one of the reasons I honestly love a good video game is just sort of the value, right? If you're going to charge me $60 for a game, like, at least make it an experience that's good, but also a decent length so that I can keep enjoying it and feel like I'm actually getting my money's worth out of it. And this is a game I feel like I have gotten, my money's worth and then some. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you guys have played this game and you have any thoughts about it, definitely let me know your thoughts on this game down below in the comment section. And make sure that you guys subscribe if you guys are new here to the channel, or if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you guys watch my videos. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.